the Ethiopian Educational Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on binomial nomenclature. In our last lesson, we learned about the system of classifying living organisms. We were introduced to the history of classification, and we defined the term taxonomy. We learned that taxonomy is the process of classifying living organisms. We learned how it developed and why it is necessary to use it in biology. In today's lesson, we will learn how organisms are given their scientific names. We will also look at some examples of organisms with scientific names and how to write those names properly. I hope you are ready to start the lesson. Shall we begin with an activity? Students, as a review, can you write the definition of taxonomy?
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. Were you able to recall the definition of taxonomy from our last lesson? If you wrote that taxonomy is the process of categorizing living organisms, then you answered correctly. Well done. Taxonomy is necessary for a number of reasons. Taxonomy shows relationships and simplifies how we refer to organisms. Taxonomy organizes living things in a way that is internationally accepted, and it avoids any confusion that could be caused by different languages. As we learned in our last lesson, the names we use for organisms are their binomial names. But to reach those binomial names, organisms need to be classified in all categories, from the general kingdom to the individual species. Organisms begin by being classified in very broad groups, but as they go down the list from kingdom to phylum to class to order to family to genus and finally to species, they are divided into smaller and smaller groups based on the features they have in common. For example, there will be many different types of organisms in a given phylum, but they will have only a few characteristics in common. There will be far fewer organisms in a given genus, but they will have a lot more features in common. The category of species contains only one type of organism with all of their main features in common. Now, let us look at some simple ways to write scientific names. In binomial nomenclature, the first name is the genus to which the organism belongs. It is written with a capital letter. In some cases, the name of the genus is reduced to just the capital letter. For example, human beings are called Homo sapiens or H. sapiens. The second name is the species to which the organism belongs. It is written with a small letter. It is important to note that the two names are underlined when handwritten or in italics when printed. Take a look at this table that shows some examples of the common and scientific names for familiar organisms. Students, let us practice writing the proper scientific names for organisms. Please take out a sheet of notebook paper and, using the techniques we just learned, write the name of the organism.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again, students. I hope you were able to properly handwrite the names for each organism. If you wrote the names Equus burchellii and Loxodonto africana and underlining the words, then you have completed this activity correctly. Good work. Organisms are classified by determining the features that are similar or different between them. When classifying an organism, you may be wondering what to look for and which group it belongs to. Biologists have developed a special method known as a biological key or identification key that makes it simple for us to classify organisms. A dichotomous key is a type of key based on making choices between two statements or alternatives. Di means two, and cotomous means branching. When we use the dichotomous key, organisms are classified, choosing the statement that best describes the organism's external features. Shall we practice this method of classifying organisms? When constructing a dichotomous key, the first step is to look at the group of organisms and separate them into two groups based on a single distinguishing characteristic. Then continue to separate each of the groups until every organism has its own separate set of characteristics. Look at this image of 5 big cats. You may notice that while the fur of each cat is different, there is one particular feature that some of the cats have, while others do not. Do you see the feature I am describing? When you do, please write each cat's name on one of the two lists, depending on whether they do or do not share the feature. You may begin.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, students. If you separated the big cats based on the marks the cats have on their fur and the cats that don't have marks on their fur, then you are correct. You should have listed the tiger, the cheetah, and the lynx under the cats that have marks, and the lion and the panther as the cats that don't have marks. Now, students, take a look at the list of big cats with marked fur. Do you see a specific characteristic that can be used to distinguish the cats in this category? Take a moment to separate the cats in this list into another list based on the characteristics that distinguishes them.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again. If you separated the cats based on the type of marks they have on their fur, then you are correct. 2 of these cats have spots, while 1 has stripes. You should have put the cheetah and the lynx in one category and the tiger in another. If so, well done. Now, look at the cheetah and the lynx. Can you see a characteristic that is uncommon to both animals? Take a minute to identify this characteristic.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again, students. If you said that one has a short tail, that is the lynx, lynx. And the other does not have a short tail, that is the cheetah, Acinonyx jubatus. Then you are correct. Great job. Let us now turn our attention to the list of big cats with unmarked fur. Students, it is probably quite obvious to you, but please identify the characteristic that distinguishes these two cats. Please do so now.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up. Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello, class. You probably identified the characteristic that distinguishes the two cats as color of fur. The panther is black and has sleek fur, while the lion has lighter colored fur and a mane around its head. Students, by making choices between two external traits, you have just used a dichotomous key to classify organisms. Great work. We will now go over the scientific names of all the cats we classified today. Please make sure to write down the following names in your notebooks. The scientific names for all the cats are Panthera tigris, Lynx lynx, Acinonyx jubatus, Panthera onca, and Panthera leo. This brings us to the end of our lesson, students. Today, we learned about binomial nomenclature. You have done very well today, and I look forward to seeing you again. Until next time, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.